Paul Matthew here again. I don't always show myself in my video in case my hair's a mess or I don't know. I just not feeling sexy. All right. Here's what I wanted to cover tonight. I'm just a guy that has had no real formal training in I don't know, mysticism and anti-gravity and all this, but over the years, I have managed to acquire a lot of knowledge because I'm old now. I'm getting old. When you hit your 40s and you start on this crap when you're young, you're going to feel old. Today, we are going to talk about one of many subjects that I have a load of knowledge about. Why do I have this knowledge? Well, I got the internet in 1995 or 6. I began studying UFOs, ufology, flying saucers, and that led me to free energy. Then, after I got into free energy, I got into being a thief. But I'm not a regular thief, and I'm not a thief anybody hates. I am a thief who steals technology from other people's stories online. No, nothing against God there. This time, I stole technology from reading other people's stories before I was born, other people's technology that they stole from the fallen angels. So I didn't really steal anything per se. I learned a lot. I stole it in the sense that I memorized things here, things there. And before you know it, I could just put together a lot of things on paper. I started with free energy and I designed a whole bunch of things, probably, and believe me, this took years for me to figure out how to make free energy with magnets. And I finally got to that point probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, where I finally, I'm a theoretical inventor too. So that means I don't have the money to build the real thing usually. Some things I have, some things I can. Some things that don't cost a lot of money. Something costs a few $100s to make. I could generally do it. So I got into this thing about, why has free energy never progressed? And you take a look at one of the smartest men in all the world, and no, it's not Einstein, because as far as I know, he didn't seem to give us much of anything except relativity, and I understand that, and he was wrong. He was wrong I had a stroke, so I can't always remember things. I'm doing my best here, and I'm very tired tonight. Anyway, Einstein was wrong because when he said that when a craft goes at the speed of light and it reaches 99% of the speed of light, that it begins to take on a glow, and then the mass becomes so great it can't slow down, and then time takes on a reddish glow and begins to slow down for the observer and all that. Well, what I found out actually is this is not true from the viewpoint of extraterrestrials. This is absolutely not true. Why? Because Einstein didn't take into account that their spacecrafts do not register mass. M-A-S-S. They don't register that. Sorry, I got a tooth missing. I speak a little awkwardly when I say my S's. But anyway, I'm doing the best I can. So that means when you approach the speed of light in these starships that you are certainly able to slow down. Obviously, they slow down. And the thing that Einstein never counted on when he spoke of this is non-traditional hardware. What hardware am I talking about? Well, hyperspace. He talked about there being a not a black hole, but a wormhole. I almost said black hole, a wormhole, where you have your source A and your destination B, and you want to get from point A to point B. And if you go in linear mode at the speed of light, it certainly would take a long time to get there, unless you're going somewhere localized like Mars at the speed of light, or, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, anywhere outside of Earth. But why would you want to go? As far as I know, there's no place that's inhabitable in our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. The only place that I'm aware of that might be inhabitable, because you got to remember, if you can't trust the message from NASA, you can't trust the messenger, you can't trust the message. So we're talking Mars. Mars might be the only place that you'd even, for all I know, we could get out and breathe air. Maybe on the moon too. I know you say, well, the moon has no atmosphere, blah, blah, blah. You know what? It just has to be a light enough atmosphere for you to be able to breathe. And I've heard stories, because I've been into ufology since, 1982. I started my career, unofficial career. I'm one of the people that knows, I'll put it this way, I know more about anti-gravity and aliens and technology and fallen angels than most people do. I certainly do. What I want to talk about today, even though I'm exhausted, I haven't been sleeping good, I had to take a sleeping pill. I wanted to get on this topic about CERN, C-E-R-N. As soon as I found out what they were doing in Switzerland, I said to myself, this reminds me of entering hyperspace. Very few of us in the world know how to create negative matter. And I'm always watching on TV, oh, well, scientists say, physicists say, well, we don't know how to create negative matter, and if we did, we could do all sorts of things with it. My goodness, it's just not true. There are scientists in certain labs that have created machines with negative mass. I don't even want to go explain how this is done. I will just tell you one. I'll divulge one. John Searle, S-E-A-R-L. I will tell you right now. And here they are saying, oh, well, we don't know of any way to produce negative mass. Well, can you go read a book? Can you go read a patent? The reason why John Searle's free energy invention is not easy to replicate is because you have to have a magnetic toothprint. And anybody that understands that would understand what I'm talking about. A magnetic toothprint that pulls the inner copper rollers and magnets along so that one device doesn't touch the outside when the magnet passes through the copper, which we're talking about making a generator. It doesn't touch it because it floats on magnetism. But it's very hard to make. I've only heard of 2 people doing it. John Searle himself is no longer alive. He's been dead for a while. I think he was like 90-something when he died. And it wasn't anything. I mean, I studied the whole thing, and I thought, well, I know a few people that put them together, and they never got them to work. And I said, well, that's because they didn't magnetize everything right. And I don't even know how to do it. I'm not 100% sure how to do it. I have an idea. Okay, so if I have an idea, why don't I make it and make all this money? Everybody has the same thing to inventors like me. Why aren't you making millions of dollars? Why aren't you saving the world? Well, here's the thing. There is a very large corporate entity or black projects that do make free energy, and when anybody tries to make free energy with a device, they end up dead. And if you follow the history of all the inventors that wound up dead, you will find that I'm not there because I refuse to get a patent on things. I had a lot of things in my house for years, and somebody picked the lock and stole my stuff. So now it's all here in my head. When I die, it goes with me. So anybody that I divulge how to build a free energy motor with conventional equipment, tools, things you can have made, things you can make on a CNC machine, etc. I don't want to put your life at risk. The only way you could do it is this way. You make one of the devices, you keep it quiet, keep it undercover. Don't tell everybody you made it. Put it in your cellar, put it somewhere in your house, and use it at home. Have your power turned off. Tell everybody you're moving, you're going to Florida, you're going off grid, something. Have your power turned off. Have this little device, which can reasonably be made between 2 and 3, maybe even 6 foot diameter. And it's not very loud. They are very quiet. And if you do make one and you do figure it out, all I'll tell you is this hint. If you play with magnets long enough, like I did as a kid, you will find out what's going to work to make not just an over unity engine, which are easier to make, but a free energy motor. The difference between an over unity engine and a free energy motor, F.E.M, FEM I call it. A free energy motor is something that spins automatically when you just let go of it and you start it by spinning it with not electromagnets, natural earth, rare element earth magnets. You can do it with regular magnets, but it won't be as strong. So then the over unity engines are interesting, but you have the problem of having to pay the electrical company. You have to pay, if it runs on, let's say, 12 volts, and the house voltage is between 110, 120, and 220. Well, if you bring it down from AC to a power inverter, you lose some of the power there. We could reasonably bring it down to only 12 to 14 volts. I prefer 24 volts. And then we could make ourselves a heck of a free energy motor. So we're putting out more energy than what we're putting in. So there are ways to run the entire house off of doing this. There's even one that's a solid state device, which is better because they don't wear out unless you burn it out. Things that take magnets, bearings. Always use grease-sealed bearings, by the way, because it's one less thing that you'll have to replace quickly. You just use regular bearings, and it's just not worth it. The grease-sealed ones are absolutely phenomenal. If you don't know what that is, they come in like the old Chicago pneumatic grease guns, air guns, I mean. Yeah, those are very good bearings. John Searle's invention was able to lower the room temperature by about 20 to 30 degrees. That's the negative mass part of it. It's a lot easier than you would ever think. But I'm not going to tell some physicist how to make it and then watch him go off and make money and get a Nobel Prize. I'm afraid I want the Nobel Prize. If I make it, I want a lot of money for this thing. Now, before you go saying that I'm another one of those guys that I want too much money for each free energy engine that I build, I want you to think of this. Each free energy motor that I wanted to manufacture will have a serial number, and I wanted a royalty paid by the company that makes them for me. And the reason why I want to do this is because I'm going to invest in other inventions, and I want to do things to help people. I'm an older guy now. I'm in my mid-40s. I don't want to just sit there and say, well, I'm going to keep, $10, $20 million like Bill Gates, and I'm going to, have to have that to live on the rest of my life. I know I don't need that kind of money. I'm going to say I'd be happy with $1 million and sit on that for the rest of my life. I think I could do it. I live modestly. But anyway, I want this money so I can help people. I can help organizations. I can give to charities. I don't want to sit there and say, gimme, 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 I'm greedy. I am a born-again Christian. I am a minister. And I do not love things in the world. I like things in the world, don't get me wrong. But I love my family. I love people. I have hardly any family left. So I'm going to be one of the last ones on, left alive. It's a terrible thing. I don't want to give anybody the idea how to make free energy. I don't want to give anybody the schematics that are in my head, because the bottom line is they're going to get it, they're going to build it. If they can make it work, which they probably will, then they're going to get in a lot of trouble. Maybe it might be a joke. But what about the Men in Black? You think that's fake? Oh, no. I've been into ufology long enough to know that's real. If the government comes against you, they'll maybe try to buy the invention off of you, and then they'll just throw it in a safe somewhere, and then they won't worry about you. Sometimes they'll make you leave the country. I don't want to have to go move to Australia because they give me $5 million for something, so you don't show your face up here again building anything. What the people in the government, whatever, well, the district attorney can come against you and accuse you of trying to, I'm trying to think what it was called, the exact charge they did on Otis T. Carr, and he was the protege of Tesla. And they told him that they're trying to overthrow the monetary system of the world by creating free energy that couldn't be taxed, and then they would be in a lot of trouble. They stole their invention that made free energy. You want to call it a flying saucer, you can. That's fair. OTCX-1, and they brought it. I was told they brought it to where Bob Lazar used to work, Los Alamos Labs. Anyway, they were able to take it there, and they couldn't release it either. But I found out they made a copy of the crap because I'm the only one of the only people in the entire world that has the video. Yeah, I have a video of them flying, or I don't really want to say flying, transversing space with two of these craft. It's a crappy video from the 70s, but I managed to get a hold of it. It's just so hard to get. I got a copy of it here. Maybe I'll put it. I did put it online, and they took it down. I'll try to put it back up. But anyway, free energy is the power source of the, if you want to call it a flying saucer. And by the way, flying saucers are real. They are something that has been around since the beginning of time. They're angel. It's angel technology. Angels and demons. It's their technology. We didn't make anything new. Flying saucers may come from other planets and other galaxies, but it's nothing that was created here. You can make one. I always believed I could build one and fly it right off the planet if I had enough money. But I don't know if anybody that wants to join me in this crusade. We need a building. We need a lot of land. We just need something similar to NASA, what they have. We need a bunch of scientists. We need a bunch of people that know about electronics. And we could build something so far beyond the space shuttle, it'd make that thing look like a joke. Instant acceleration, no G-forces felt, a simplistic control system, anti-gravity at its finest and exotic. But anyway, I'm getting off target. I wanted to say that I studied a lot about time travel, and I really got off the mark for years. I studied a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I was sort of interested for, I don't know, probably 10, 15 years on time travel. And I used to sit there and try to design devices when I was a young man and try to make something that would actually, in real life, it would possibly allow me to go back in time. So I did what most people do, and I got books out of the library before the internet and UFOs. And, I had my own UFO sighting with my mom and my aunt when I was 12 years old. Sorry, I got phlegm from having trouble. I talk too much when I do these podcasts. My throat's bothering me. I'm going to try to get a drink right now. This is exactly what I wanted to do, like poor Art Bell. I don't know how he could talk so long without having throat problems. I don't even know. Yeah, I used to be a big Art Bell fan. Anyway, I guess I'm sort of like the next Art Bell because I do know a lot about paranormal things, and that's going to cover another subject, sort of, another topic. I'm famous for getting off topic, so forgive me for that. I'm getting off topic often because whatever I say leads to something else. So there's a reason why I get off topic. Like A leads to B, and B leads to C, and before you're at it, you're at X, Y, Z, whatever. I want to talk about an experience that I had. I talk about paranormal experiences, and I'm going to do probably a video on several of them. So this will be my first paranormal video that I want to do. Let's talk about the time I experienced a time bubble. And this is not just me, so don't think I'm crazy. Other people have talked to me since then on the internet and emailed me, and it's a real phenomenon. Let me explain something to you. If you don't have the mindset to believe in things that are amazing and sci-fi things and technology and real things, and you don't have the imagination for God, and you don't have the imagination for angels, all this stuff, just turn me off and put your head down in the sand and say, oh, that don't exist, heaven don't exist, hell don't exist, you can't go to another planet, you can't get past the Kuiper Belt, blah, 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 blah. Well, I know that's not true. I won't even tell you how I know that's not true. But anyway, get back to what I was saying. I was in the driveway, probably early 2000s, maybe a little bit like 2005 or 6, maybe, I don't know, 2010. I don't remember exactly when. I should have wrote it down in the diary. So anyway, I think I was in my 30s. Anyway, I got out of the car. This was that night. And this is a little embarrassing, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I had to urinate. So I went over, trying to go in between like the garage and the house to urinate, and I started to get ready to do it, and all of a sudden, this is so hard to explain. All of a sudden, I turned and looked, and the car in the driveway was no longer in the driveway, it was out in the road. And I didn't see it out of the corner of my eye, out of my left eye, which I've been having problems with seeing white out of the corner of my eye, white light out of my corner of my eyes, and they can't figure out why at the doctors, the eye doctor. So anyway, I didn't see the car. I didn't hear the car pull out. It was there, and my mother was leaving, and then I just was going to go to the bathroom and then get back in the car. You know, this is like maybe 7 or 8 or 9 at night, and we had to get back in and go to the store or something. So I stopped home, went to started to go to the bathroom. I think this did happen while I was urinating. How embarrassing is that? And then I turned around. The car was in the road, and there was a kid next door to me at house 107. He was pounding on the window. And I thought, oh, what's he doing? He's probably like 7 years old, maybe six years old or something, 6 to 8. And I saw the kid pound on the window. So then I put my junk away. I hate calling it that. Stuff away. Pulled my pants up. And I started to walk toward the car. Then all of a sudden, real space and time caught up because I had just seen the future. And then all of a sudden I saw the car back in the driveway. And it was backing out into the road. And then I saw the kid pound on the window again. It was like a videotape had been played, or a DVD had all of a sudden been played across my eyes. Like I was seeing like 5 to 10 seconds into the future. And I felt like some kind of time wave had hit me. And I just felt kind of funny, like something had washed over me. It felt like there was like Ben Kenobi said, or Darth Vader said there's a disturbance in the Force. Yeah, there was, Ben Kenobi or whoever said it was right. There was a disturbance in the Force. Yeah, when he was on board with the Millennium Falcon, I remember that. When that Alderaan blew up and he got a headache. Well, it was sort of like that. And I just remember like kind of pulling back and getting woozy. Like, wow, what was that just washed over me? And I immediately thought somebody had been playing with a time machine. Because I had worked on time machines on paper for, on and off for a long time. Read everything there is to read about time travel. Read all the paradoxes. I finally came to the conclusion that the paradox that I believe would happen would be that you'd be going into an alternate reality. So the people that would be there that you love that died, they wouldn't really be there. That's not really them. That's another parallel universe. So that's why I decided ultimately not to do it. Because once someone dies and goes to heaven, there's no way I can see that you could go back. Now, I used to think that life was like a film, a movie strip, 8mm, and you stretch it out, you have your beginning of birth and you have your death at the end. Right at your, before your death. And then if you could just take it, the left is the beginning, the right is the end. Take the right part of the film, pull up the end frame, and then drop it back down where you want it, and then loop it, sort of. Or at least loop it one time so you could go back to when you were, 15 or 20. Something like that. 18, whatever you want to do. So then I came to the conclusion that, well, would the spacecraft or time machine that I build, would that be gone? Because it didn't exist in that time. It was just pieces of metal somewhere in the hills before it got forged. Does that mean I would lose my spacecraft and I'd have to build another one? So the moral to this story, if I'm right, is don't go back like Marty McFly and go back before you could build the time machine. So go all the way back. You could probably build one in the 50s. So go back and enjoy the 50s. But I wouldn't go back to like, the 1800s or anything. No, it's a little too far. Go back and see Jesus or the dinosaurs. Of course, you went back and see Jesus. He'll heal you and send you back if you're sick with something. But anyway, it's such a bizarre notion. So anyway, back to my story. After time caught up with me and it played out for like 5 or 10 seconds, that I saw the future. And that's exactly what it was. It was so bizarre. It was so real. It was every bit as real as now. What's around you. Every bit is real. Didn't seem fake at all or foggy. So then I got in the car and I said something to my mother about it and we drove away. And that had always been my only time travel instance that I had. So I used to think about building a machine. And I said, well, wait a minute. Instead of building a machine, let's be smarter about this. Let's see if anybody else built a time machine. Anyone else built one that we could copy or we could learn from it. Because you got to understand something. The way you travel from one planet to another and get all this crazy technology is not for you to take a long time and be, like a button on the jacket just along the way. You're just another button all the way to the end. What you want to do is you want to be the one that has the technology during your lifetime. So how do you do it? How could you possibly do it? You go back in time with the internet and the history books and talk to people if you can. They can remember what their great-grandfathers built or their grandfathers, and you find somebody that did build a time machine or something close. So guess what? I struck gold. I am the only one that has probably ever said this. The OTC X1, and you can put that in, look it up on the internet if you don't know about it, put in car, C-A-R-R, and put in, excuse me, I had another call, I had to stop it. Type in Otis T. Carr and Ralph Ring. He's still alive, Ralph Ring. I believe that what they made was not just a craft that could transcend distance, but I believe it was a time machine. Now, here's the problem. Why didn't I build one? Why didn't I build a toy of it? Why didn't I build a model of it? Why didn't I send it back? Well, the problem is, I'm a mechanic, or was a mechanic for years, and I understand how mechanical things work. I built computers since I was about 12 years old, 14 years old, somewhere. Well, started in computers in the early 80s when we barely had computers. I started out with PET computers and VIC-20s and Commodore 64s, Commodore 128, and we led up to Amigas, and then, before you know it, the Packard Bell was here in 94, 95. But anyway, to get back to where I was into all that stuff. So I knew as soon as I saw the OTC X1, I said, I got the plans right here. I download them off the internet. You can get them on PDF file. And then all of a sudden, I was so disappointed. I realized after a little while, very short while, because I have a brain that works fast when it wants to, I realized the instructions were incomplete. I've talked to people about this. This was a very hot subject 10 to 15 years ago. This was a very hot subject on the internet. And I can tell you that most of the people that called me, were very disappointed because they said they couldn't get it to work. They started up the little machine. They built a toy model of it. And it instantly flew away, went into space. And people asked me why. I said, well, I know a lot about it, and I'll answer your questions why. The reason why it flew away is because it's spinning, the inner and outer part of the craft is spinning too fast. And you just opened a wormhole, and now the little toy spacecraft just went through a wormhole. It took off probably 7,000 miles an hour in my estimates. and it hit the wormhole and it was gone. Just floating around out in space, junk, powered by, the neutrons are powered by batteries. What is that called again? See, I'm not, I haven't studied this stuff in a while, and I'm just very sick and tired. Uh, Electrolyte. There we go. The electrolyte that they put in there is the only way you can get it to work. You can try battery acid, but it never seems to work as good. So you put this electrolyte in there. If you read the plan, I can't go through the whole plans, but anyway, they're pulsing certain types of electricity at a specific frequency. I know what the frequency is. Problem is, I knew a guy that was building one, and I said to him, if you get in there, it's going to go in space, you're going to die. He said, we don't understand how to control it. I said, well, I do understand how to control it. I know how to control it, and I have pictures of the controller. Believe it or not, the controller is a black quartz crystal. It sounds just like witchcraft, doesn't it? Well, guess what? It is a little bit. Fallen angels, yeah, that amounts to witchcraft, a lot of their technology. And angels are into that type of thing. So God says you're in a lot of trouble if you study witchcraft. So I'm not going to study anything that's going to bring demons into my house, and I don't do Ouija boards or any of that stuff, but I do fart around and skirt around, and, like, I know what gray aliens are, the biggest secret to the world that I've kept for a long time, and I've held this secret, and nobody even cares anymore, to be honest with you. I can tell you their identity. People don't care. People don't even care. So you know what? To hell with it. I'm going to say it anyway. The gray aliens, some are biological, some are androids. I don't know why anybody would want to build such a thing. But anyway, they're unclean spirits. They're the spirits of devils, plural. Anybody that knows these specific things that I'm speaking of will know what terminology I'm using. So the beings that everybody calls aliens, they're demons. Demons are disembodied spirits. They do disembody themselves from devils, fallen angels that are cherub angels. So the Satan opens his mouth and out they come. But also the other cherub angels do it. There's unbelievable amounts of them. So that's what gray aliens are. You are not dealing with aliens. Not really. I mean, the Bible tells us who they are. I don't want to call them aliens. I hate that word. I hate calling them grays or Grays or Greys. But anyway, they're the modern thing that, is in popularity. Oh, they're real. They're very real. They're very tangible. They probably weigh about 40, 45 pounds maybe. But the power they have over humans is they can look into your eyes and they can paralyze you. And they can control magnetism. They can control anti-gravity. They can knock you out and float you out of a window. All that stuff is true. It's really still true. Alien abductions are real. It's nothing to joke around about. I'll just say that I know so. And let's say I've seen things, talked to people, been in certain areas that, well, certain places that most people would never go. And I can tell you right now that that's absolute shit, garbage, whatever you want to call it. Sorry, Lord. It is really real. It's demonic. But anyway, if you want to call them aliens, you can call God an alien. You can call Jesus an alien who's God. And the reason why you can use the word alien, even though Jesus is born here, because Jesus said, I am not of this earth. And if you look up the definition of an alien, it is somebody that is not from your planet, not from your world. I'm not saying that these things aren't here, because they are here. They do live underground, but they do come from areas like the Pleiades. It's been unbelievable how much I've studied about these things. So anyway, here we are today. Turn on the TV, and now the government will be glad to talk to you in some ways now, Congress. If you're a whistleblower and talk about all this alien stuff on TV, you never had that back in the 70s and 80s when I was young. You never had that. Yeah, when I was born. No. You were not allowed to write letters to your congressman. They wouldn't get answered. You weren't allowed to do any of that. Nobody would answer you back way back in the day. Look at Congressman Schiff. He was given cancer and killed for looking into the Roswell. I know what really happened at Roswell. I will save that for another topic. I don't care of what anyone else says. I can knock everybody out of the box with the truth. It doesn't matter how many shows say, here's what happened at Roswell. They get it wrong often. I'm not going to get it wrong. Yes, I studied Roswell beyond belief. But anyway, I'll cover that on another subject, what it was. And it was absolutely extraterrestrial. It ain't no damn weather balloon. So, and by the way, I have a report on that weather balloon thing. That was a joke. I've also found, I did finally find I had a report since the 80s that I managed to, I don't even want to say where I got it from, but I was able to acquire the report back then. It did get circulated among the internet now, but it's hard to find. It didn't really have a name on the document, so I can't just name it to you so you can go find it. But I'll cover that in another story. But anyway, back to this thing. This is supposed to be about time travel. So I realized that Otis T. Carr, he made a time machine. He said that when the inner rotating mass of the disk catches up with the outer one that rotates, that all of a sudden it just flies away. Well, what he didn't tell you when you build this thing, and I don't understand why, is that he didn't put a control system in the plans, in the PDF. He didn't have PDFs back then. This guy was alive in the 30s, 40s, 50s. But anyway, he was in Oklahoma. I can't get over that. As soon as I saw this thing, I said, well, where's the controls? Where's the controls in this thing? I can't believe how ignorant people are. I've had people call me and email me years ago from faraway lands. So we are working on another OTC X1, whether it was 2 feet in diameter, 3 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet. I said, as soon as you start it up, you're going to lose that. What do you mean I'm going to lose it? I said, it's going to go into hyperspace. It's going to transverse away. I don't want to say fly. It's going to transverse itself away. I'm not a scientist, remember. I'm just an inventor. But anyway, one of the guys did it. I said, you didn't have a controller for it. And guess what? He said it needs a laser. We don't know. We don't know what the laser's for. You tell me what the laser is for, whoever's listening to me. You tell me what that laser is for, because I've tried to research it for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years now, whatever it's been, probably about 18 years. I do not know why you would need a laser on board of something that he claims he was able to show to people from General Motors, and it just flies around the room based on thought, or outside where he had it, and then they take the top off and look at it, and there's almost nothing in it. Well, I can tell you right now that that's not the one that he released in the PDF. You guys can CNC machine all that. I don't have the money to do it. You guys could do it. You guys could help me if you want to, but I'm telling you right now, it's going to fly away. It's going to be gone. If it hits the roof of the garage, it's probably going to go right literally through it, because it's hyperspace. Yeah, I know a lot about hyperspace. Unfortunately, I do. You know what hyperspace is? It's when I can put my hand through a wall and pull it back. It's when a bike falls into a tree after a lightning storm, and all of a sudden it merges with the tree. Not because it grew there, because the tree is probably 50 to 100 years old, and the bike got there overnight, or a tire and rim got merged with the tree. I've seen this before. Really amazing. You have to cut them all apart to get it out. So anyway, hyperspace, imagine a cube on the outside and then put another cube inside it that's a little smaller. That's hyperspace. Like half the size. Just half the size. Is 3 feet on the outside, foot and a half. Put it in there, make it out of clear Lexan or something, plexiglass, acrylic, and you can actually do a little example of hyperspace. So they're aliens, and let's just call them what they are: angels, fallen angels, and angels. The evil ones, the good ones, demons, all of it's there. They battle each other. How do they get from one planet to another? How do they beat light speed? Well, Einstein knew how to beat light speed, in a sense. He suggested that there would be a way to travel, like I was starting to say, point A to point B. I want to go from Earth to Mars, and I don't want to hit the moon in between, right? Let's say the moon's right in front of me, and I don't steer around it because I'm going too fast. We're just going to go through it. Yes, we can actually go through the Earth with it. I don't know how people live, but they do. Because there's people, a woman that was abducted, and she was on one side of the earth, and the aliens took her through and out the other side. And I believed her. I did believe it because, well, it's like in a video game when you type in no clip. Does anybody remember the days of DOS and early Windows 95, 98, even Windows 2000? Does anybody remember that, or DOS mode? So you type in no clip, and you can go through walls. So why don't you do that on a 3D first-person shooter game, like maybe the old Doom or something, and then watch that effect, because that's simulating hyperspace in a 3D environment, in the computer's reality, virtual reality. But the fact that you can go through solid objects now means that you can go into hyperspace, and you beat the speed of light. You beat it by, I don't even know the margin. The speed of light's 186,000 miles per second. This thing can traverse unbelievable amounts of distances per jump. You have to put a certain amount of energy through the center neutron that's in the spacecraft. Two inverted cones makes hyperspace. You can make them the angle of the pyramid. But anyway, they power this thing up, and when you charge the capacitor and then you burst it, what am I looking for? I'm having a brain fart again. You discharge it. The spacecraft does a jump. If you want to learn about this, go and get the book called The Day After Roswell by Lieutenant Colonel, what's his name, Corset. You can read about him, and that Roswell book is the only one that I know that's true. Of course, there's certain things that he didn't tell you in that book that only I can tell you. But anyway, that's for another time. I'll have to look at another video called I Know What Happened at Roswell, or something. I'll call it like that, but it'll be on my page. I'm so late in getting this information out. I could have done this 15 and 20 years ago, easily. Even 26 years ago, I was into this. No, actually, wait a minute. 27. No, actually, it's been, oh my goodness, it's been since 1982 I started this stuff. So it was when Ralph Ring was young. I can't remember when Otis died. I think he died in the 60s or 70s. I think he died in the 60s. I don't know. That's not that important to me because I can't ask him anything now. It would have been so important to me had he lived. I wanted to ask Ralph Ring some of these questions, and I found somebody that did ask him. And I said, well, what's the laser do? We need to know about the laser, and we need to know about the focus crystal, the quartz crystal, which sounds ridiculous, I know. But you're talking about hyperspace technology, angel technology, so don't say it's ridiculous. And no, it doesn't have a computer on board. The thing that controls the destination is your mind. Your mind, the influence of your mind. So I used to kept thinking, I thought when I designed my craft on paper many years ago, I thought that I have to know the frequency of Mars to get there. Well, I was wrong. The destination decides the frequency, not the other way around. Doesn't sound like it makes sense, does it? Because I thought, well, I'll just get onto this focus crystal, get 3 guys to do it, because there's 3 demons that actually focus their intent on this crystal, and then the ship responds as an extension of your body. And believe me when I tell you, you don't want to see 3 little unclean spirits coming out, because they will come after you and they will kill you. They will torture you, or they'll take you away. They take women's ovum and men's sperm, and it's no joke. It's no joke. But anyway, I stole their technology through other people that shot off their mouths. I stole technology from them, talking about projects that they worked on. I've got several books on anti-gravity, but there's many different kinds of anti-gravity, so you're not necessarily going to hit the right one that's going to make a spacecraft go to another planet. But then my question was, the only way to do this, if we do get it working, or somebody helps me to get it work, I want to go to one of the Gliese planets, Gliese, Gliese, like Gliese 187 or 97. Yeah, I want to say 187. That's homicide. Gliese 86 or 188. I don't remember the numbers, but there's planets that are inhabitable that are like Earth. I would suggest you go there. So we're going to do several jumps to get there, and it's going to go. You're going through hyperspace, which means you're able to compress it into the front of the craft and out the back of it, and you'd be so far ahead of light speed, it's a joke. In order to get anywhere with light speed in reality, you'd have to go about maybe 5, 10, even 15 times the speed of light, depending how far you're going. I would say don't ever do it randomly. We want to go to a place where, you know, where the Doppler radar or Doppler satellites and all that stuff calculated where there's another world like ours. Because if you get there and you break down and you're stranded and we land there and we can't take off or something, we need to have a place that's Earth-like. You know, it's got water, it's got dirt, it's in the Goldilocks zone. Like I said, I don't want to tell anyone how to build this because we can't control it. I'm not saying we couldn't control it partially, but I want to know why it cycles through different frequencies. Why does the laser do that? And I don't even know how to change the color of lasers. You know what I mean? It's just, this is not really my area of expertise. My area of expertise is paranormal creatures, inventing free energy devices, and flying cars and spacecraft. Of course, like I said, I did a lot of it on paper. I'm not going to be ashamed of that. You know why? Because just because it's on paper doesn't mean you couldn't really build it. So yeah, I'm not going to say it was a failure. I wanted to build a craft, the one that I thought would be the easiest to build, or fairly easy to build, would be, you guys remember Space 1999? That is a very good shaped craft, and guess what? It blows all that away, even though it looks old and stupid and like it belongs on the moon for the 60s era. But let me tell you something. That thing, it'd be like the Millennium Falcon. On the outside, it looks like a freighter, and on the inside, it's all hot rod, because these things go fast. When they hit space in linear mode, I call it impulse power. We can hit 220,000 miles an hour if we burst the capacitor right. So you don't get far. No, you won't get far. I mean, you can head toward the moon. The moon's already occupied. So you go there at your own risk. I've heard for years this thing about, you know, there's angels on the other side of the moon, aliens, bases from Germany and America and all that. And I've seen enough videos myself of spacecraft going in and out of the moon, and they weren't from NASA, so you can trust them. So I do see things like that, and you can find those online on YouTube. I might even post some of that. But anyway, everybody can't be lying. Everybody can't be making CGI and AI. They can't all be fake. If you see a distortion around a spacecraft that's tubular or triangular or round, flying saucer, spherical, it's not necessarily that it's fake CGI. It's because you're looking through a magnetic field. And the magnetic field, some of them extend around the craft 800 to 1,600 feet, depending on how powerful the device is, how big the craft is, and all that. Otis T. Carr, his craft was 46 feet. The one that abducted Betty and Barney Hill, that was more advanced technology, but similar, because they didn't have a shield on theirs, and the Betty and Barney Hill craft did. It was pure plasma, 150,000 degrees. Any little asteroid hits the ship, it's immediately incinerated before it even hits the fire, because the flame is, you know, the outward gases will destroy it and melt it. So it's not like Star Trek. You don't want a solid shield. I know a lot about space, a lot about spacecraft. You don't want a solid craft. You want to know why? Or you don't want a solid shield. Because when the asteroid hits you, it'll keep pushing you, pushing you, pushing you. So that's not really the way to go, regardless of what you've seen on Star Trek. I've studied ways to make anti-gravity and teleportation beams and all this. I encountered a real teleportation beam when I was in my 30s, and me and my mother and I found, while we went down a road that had a flying saucer, down came the beam. This thing was as big as a house, or parking garage, way bigger than a house. And it shot down a beam of light around us. It was partially see-through. It was about maybe 5 or 6 feet in diameter. It was as wide as the minivan we were in. I think the minivan was like late 90s, early 2000. No, it was a 98, I think. So anyway, I shot down the beam. The beam looked blue. It looked like it had crystals in it, and that's their technology, fallen angels. So anyway, they shot down the beam. The Holy Spirit allowed us to steer around the beam, and we were able to get away from that. And this other guy got taken up with his car. I can't get a hold of him for anything online. A black guy that lived in, I think he's in South Carolina, maybe, or Georgia. This happened in South Carolina where I was. But these things do come down. They do take people, and if you do the number, you punch the numbers in, find out how many people go missing every year. Excuse me while I get a drink. Yeah, I wanted to, it's just water. I'm a minister. I can't drink booze. No alcohol. No cigarettes. None of that crap. I don't eat unhealthy things. But anyway, pouring out a lot of secrets here. I want to build one of these craft, and the real scary thing is, you spend all this money, and the government finds you're doing it, and they can just destroy what you have by a satellite beam, you know what I mean? They got Project Thor, T.H.O.R, or can rain down a missile on you. So this is not something, I mean, I talked to a guy that built one in his barn, and he had to keep it hidden in the barn. I was too afraid to get in it. It goes 7,000 miles an hour instantaneously with no G-forces. He said it was so fast, it was unbelievable, and I don't know how he was able to control the speed. The only thing I could think is he was able to cut down the power to the electromagnets. That is what propels you forward once the craft has hyperspace pulled down around it. Getting hyperspace to be pulled down around the spacecraft is not as hard as you think. The problem that I ran into was to do the OTCX-1 design, it'll immediately take off. We don't know the other things that are in it. They've interviewed Ralph Ring. He's the guy to go get the information from, not me. And then he said he didn't remember. He couldn't remember back to the 40s and 50s. So that really sucks. He's a lot older than me. He's older than my father. I think he's around 78 or 80 now. My father died, unfortunately, and my mother died, so, you know, they can't come here and kill my family, that's for sure. I don't have a family to kill. Whenever they threaten to kill you, the men in black, you rebuke them in the name of Jesus Christ. You accept Jesus as your Savior first, and you will have the power of an alien in you. The best alien you can ever get. Go look up the Lord's Prayer. Live it, know it, believe it, trust it, and you can turn yourself into a weapon against evil, unholy things. The gray aliens are afraid of the name of Jesus Christ. They're terrified because he's their judge. Remember, they're demons. He's their judge. If you don't know anything about the Bible, I would suggest you go look that up. So anyway, that was my experience with a time machine. I took a look at Ralph Ring's data on how to build this craft. I said, well, I read everything there is to read about it. I read everything to read outside of these. Well, there's a whole bunch of other material you can read about the OTCX-1. You don't have to just have the patent in front of you. They never did file for a second patent. The first craft is called an amusement device, and I don't think it works because they have it grounded to the Earth. So they said they were able to make one that wasn't grounded. Well, it's good because we're flying away with it. We're transversing space with it. Here's how you go about basically doing what I say. You call down hyperspace from the craft, and then your craft, you are the wormhole. Why is a flying saucer round? Almost nobody can answer this but me, and I laugh at people that always tell me they know more than I do about aliens and UFOs. So I ask them the question, why is a flying saucer round? And they don't answer me. I'm going to tell you why. I don't even need anybody else's input. I've got a lot of the input to give out. Some of it I will. The reason why it's round and it turns on its side because it's heading in the direction where it wants to go, and the hyperspace wormhole is opening around the outside of the craft. You cannot travel through hyperspace with the craft being linear. And even Bob Lazar knew this, and I knew all this stuff before Bob Lazar. And I knew that the craft turned on its side. When he said it turned on its side to go through hyperspace, I knew he wasn't lying. Yeah, I studied Bob Lazar. I think he's a little bit older than me. But anyway, yeah, I did believe Bob Lazar. It took a while to believe him. I listened to everything, studied everything. If you're a fan of Bob Lazar, then go ahead and listen to what he says. But we can make this craft without element 115. I'm not going to get killed over something like that. I wanted to build a better space shuttle for NASA, something way better. And if you really believe that their technology from the 70s is the only thing they have, I mean, what a joke. They got this stupid thing where they were putting a heat shield on the rockets and satellites. And I said, well, the problem with that ancient technology is it burns up. Why would I want to have something in my spacecraft that burns up? I want it to be reusable. So here's what I do. I put negative energy around the nose of the craft, which would be similar to what the space shuttle looks like. And you put electricity around that, and it can stand like 3,000, I think it's 3,500 degrees. It can stand a blowtorch. And somebody put electricity through a handkerchief one time, a moist handkerchief, and they were not able to burn it with a blowtorch. I'm not sure how they did it. It didn't sound very interesting to me. I'd rather put it through metal and then watch the effect. So anyway, that's how we're going to re-enter the atmosphere. We'll get the angle right. Even if the angle's a little bit off, we'll be able to put enough electricity through the nose of the craft to enter the atmosphere and to break out of it too. I don't think it takes as much to break out of the atmosphere as what they're saying. I don't trust the numbers. The numbers have been fudged. Remember, you can't trust NASA. Never a straight answer. But anyway, I feel strongly, and I never got to ask Ralph Ring this because nobody can ever get a hold of the guy. I don't know how to get a hold of him. Can you send me his phone number? Can anyone send me his phone number? I'm the guy to talk to do this with him. So anyway, a lot of interest in the OTCX-1 died because when people made the models, they flew away, turned into jello, turned into hyperspace, and they were gone. Now I knew about hyperspace. Well, they were the first ones to do it because he was born before I was. And Tesla, obviously was born before I was. So I'm not going to say I'm the first person to get into this technology. I'm not. And I would never claim that. But what I do claim is I know a lot about it. I know a lot about it. Could we get one stabilized that wouldn't fly out of the atmosphere? I think so. Can anybody out there listening to me, any physicist, anybody tell me why, with this technology, if you go study it, tell me why we need a laser. What do we need a laser for? Is it to pinpoint somewhere in space where we're headed? I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand why you'd need specifically what you need a laser for. Does a laser go down on the quartz crystal? I don't know. I can't understand why Ralph Ring can't draw us the rest of the parts inside the exploded view or see-through view of the OTCX-1 and tell us where the seat was, 3 seats. Tell us where the controller is. How does the controller hook up? I think I know how it hooks up. I think. I'm not going to promise anybody anything. The stuff is a lot of theory, but according to them, they really flew it and it really did work. So yeah, Ralph Ring already said it worked, and they did confiscate it. And I have a video of it flying, so obviously it was taken out of their hands. This was in Colorado, I believe, the video. It goes really fast, so you could be on one side of the United States and, just instantly be, I don't know, half a second be somewhere else with it. If you ever watch videos of certain flying saucers you can watch enter hyperspace and they just bug out of here. People always say the same old garbage. I'm so sick of hearing it. Oh, well, we can't build anything like that. We fly jets and we know what G-forces are. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, guess what? We don't have G-forces with this technology. We don't have any G-forces because it would crush the little aliens that are inside the craft. Of course it would. So we electrify the hull. And then it all moves together. All the atoms and electrons move together. That's why this technology is not understood, because we don't electrify the space shuttle. So we still feel G's in that or whatever, or especially in rockets. But anyway, NASA's keeping that a secret. They had to be ashamed of themselves. 1970s technology, modern computers, but yet there's a secret space program that the Nazis started. And it wasn't with rockets either. I mean, they did do that stuff too, but there was one that was an even more advanced program than that dealt with electrogravitics. That's the one I'm talking about. I don't know if Werner von Braun, he must have known about that stuff with Hitler, because they were the first ones to have the, I can't remember the name of it, the flying saucers, I can't remember the name of it. See, there I go again. Honeyboos. That's the name in Germany for flying saucer. But anyway, they were able to get a flying saucer when the government went into World War II and somewhat conquered the Nazis before they took off to South America. I was able to see some of the blueprints that finally surfaced online. And I can tell you right now, there's not enough things labeled, so you can't just go there, say, oh, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to build it, and I'll have it up and running. Even a 6-foot model. It's not like that. You're not going to figure it out with just a diagram and reading a few names. And they're in German, so you're going to have to decode that, which I already did. So I feel that the old CTX-1 is a time machine. I felt that all they had to do was focus on the frequency of the year they wanted to go to and where they wanted to go in three-dimensional space, and the craft would lift up off the ground and traverse the area, and they'd go back in time. As far as I know, they never did go back in time. I'm the only one. I don't know. Ralph Ring has never said this. Otis T. Carr never said this in all their the interview of Ralph Ring and everything available on the internet that's been transcribed and typed in and all that. There's nothing that says they built a time machine. I personally believe in a time machine, and I'll tell you why. Look at the story about, what's his name? Billy Meyer, the one-armed Swede. He got his arm taken off with a bus. And there were a lot of people that actually found out he really was getting beamed up. It wasn't baloney like I thought it was. I don't believe every UFO story, or shall I say UAP now. But anyway, I don't believe every story that they tell. But I did think there was something to that one. He had contact with some kind of angels. I don't think they were fallen angels, but regular angels. Because he said that they took him up and they were able to go back in time and rescue other races that had fallen from other planets that had died, like hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago. So that it's possible. I think that's possible. But then again, I still think you're going into another dimension. It's going to be another reality. It's not going to be the one that we have here. So the options were, you can't build a time machine / spacecraft to go back in time any farther than when you built the machine. Now, that doesn't even make sense to me. There's a major difference between going ahead in time and going back in time. They are absolutely not the same thing. It's easier to go ahead in time than to go back in time by far. I know there's been people around. I've listened to the stories like John, what was his name? John Tudor. But they all disappeared, so I think they were killed. There are people that work for the government, and they swear up and down they've been back in time. My problem with that is if you go back in time and you run into yourself, What is the paradox? You kill yourself, and then you take the place of that being, and then you pretend to be him. Do you look older because you're going back in time from when you were older, or do you look like the same age as the person you killed, or that's you, sort of you, an alternate you, or do you go back in and do you become a baby again in the crib if you go back to the date of your own birth? How scary is that? Of course, you could live a long time doing it over and over again. Every 20 or 30 years, build a time machine, go back to when you were 18. Do it again and again and again. You get to the future eventually, and or go back to the past and relive it over and over and over again into the future. But anyway, there's a thought. I don't know. Are you happy with the person that you meet? Are you going to look older than him? If you go back there and you meet yourself, are you going to look older than him? Will you be older than him? Will he believe it's you? If he doesn't believe it's you, show him your teeth. People have similar teeth, from when they're young to when they're old. You could probably get someone to understand that you're not just an uncle or a long lost brother, that you're meeting yourself. So then again, if you go meet yourself, why not just go back and get Einstein and then give him his own work when he's 20 years old or 18 years old or 15, but at least when he started, so we'll say 20, and then give him his own work and see what develops of that in the future. Take medical technology back. You don't even need to go, really. You just put it in the ship, have a bomb in the ship to go off after a few days, destroy what's in it after they take the message out of it. Because you don't have to get in it to send it back, That was one of my greatest ideas that I ever came up with. Well, can you win the lottery by sending the time machine back and giving you the numbers so it'll reappear to the old you, or is it the you of another universe, another dimension? I mean, so yeah, that might not be good. So, like I said, do you return and then your time machine just breaks apart around you because it doesn't exist then? Or can you go back to yourself when you first invented it and then have two of you and two time machines? That'd be the quickest way to build it. Can you go back and get 3 or 4 of you? Go back and get a bunch of physicists and Einstein and bring them back to the future if you can. See, it's easier to go in the future than it is the past because we use the theory, which is not really a theory anymore, Einstein's relativity. We can go back, or we can take who's here, and we can certainly go ahead. The way that you go ahead in time is to jump through one of these wormholes, and you disappear for about 3 years, and then you reappear somewhere else on Earth. I think they line up with the natural magnetic lines, ley lines of the world. And then you'd actually be able to live your age 3 or 4 years older, and when you return, you wouldn't have aged anymore. So you build a time machine. I do know how to build that one. I'm pretty sure I can build that one. So you jump in it, and then you won't be around for 4 years. It's perception of time, and you'll be lost. You'll be lost, but yet you won't feel it. You wake up on the side of the road, it's 3 or 4 years later, you've just jumped ahead in time. Now that's reasonable to do. That is absolutely something that you could dream of and do. If you can keep the time machine with people that watch over it, make sure it doesn't get destroyed or taken out of the house, then you could keep going back over and over again. But anyway, I'm going to conclude this time machine thing. Let everybody ponder what I said and let me know what you think. My email is daz@1950.com. Thank you.